technique for you today. Something a little, I love learning new things. So this is something that I kind of tackled a little while ago, and I'm just kind of coming back around to it. So as Leah said, I have a little bit of a sample made. I made this a while ago. Okay, it's a bag. It's one of those really kind of funky bags like this. So what this is a bag made from an old sweater. Yeah, you can see it. There we are. There we are. It's showing up nicely. So this was a wool sweater that I got at a thrift shop, and I felted it by washing it in the washing machine. Hot wash, cold rinse. And what that does is it mats the fibers. It does everything that we generally try not to do with wool sweaters. But in this case, it makes that fabric a lot more stable, a lot less stretchy. And then you can cut it up and make whatever you want out of it. But what I want to talk about today is the flowers on here. These little white ones, for example, there. And this is a technique called wool felting. It's been done for a while. You can actually make 3D elements out of it. But I'm going to show you how easy it is to apply that sort of an image. That flower is particularly cute there. And he's fuzzy. If I turn him sideways. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to embellish pretty much anything with a wool felt little flower. You can do all kinds of things. I got carried away and I added the beads to it, of course, because you got to have beads on things, and a little bit of embroidery on there as well. So it was lots of fun to play with. I think I did it one winter when everything was just needed a little bit of fun. I had a whole bag of colored wool that I was using. So yes, I wanted to show you. Anne sent me an email the other day about a couple of products that we have. They're from the Clover line. So there's the packaging. And one of them is, it just looks like a brush. It's a base, about that size. It's got bristles, it's soft. And that is because what we're going to be using is a felting needle. Now this is the gadget, this is the wool felting gadget here. And it has three, this one has three very sharp barbed needles on it. Maybe up here, somewhat, hopefully you can see those needles. And those are replaceable because they are delicate, and it's possible to break them if you go too heavily with them. But that's the whole idea of having the brush base to work on, because you're going to be piercing down through the brush this way. There we go, like that. So you need something soft to be working on. There's the needles. And you can't probably see it on camera, but they have little notches in them. And that's what's going to help the wool fuse together. So I think it's going to be easiest for you to see. So what you need is you need your brush base from Clover, and you need a fabric base to work on that's not too dense. And this happens to be a scrap of our wool felt. We have lots of wool felt in right now. I know one of our ladies on Tuesday was asking about a particular color of wool felt, so we've just had a shipment come in, so we've got lots. This is just a scrap of a nice burgundy wool, and I'll set that on there. And then you're going to need this stuff. It's called wool roving. Basically what it is wool fibers that have yet to be spun into anything. So it's soft, it's fluffy, and you can use other, I was going to bring dryer lint just to show you that you can use dryer lint But unfortunately, my husband, who was taking care of the laundry, is a very tidy when it comes to it, and he always cleans the lint trap. So I didn't have any. But anything soft and fluffy like this, so this is the traditional wool roving that's dyed. We have packages of this. And you're going to separate a little piece of it, just like that. We'll pull out a long, oh, that's a long piece. There we go. So what you want are the soft fibers, like that. I'm going to take, I think that's a bit long. I can separate it some more, like this. And I think I'm just going to bundle that into almost a petal shape. Then I'll set that over my wool base, round it out like that. And this is where the work comes in. You're going to take your felting needle and you're going to pierce down through the roving and through your base. You're not going to push hard enough that the needles hit the base of the brush. Thing. You're just going to poke it. Poke, 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 poke. And those little barbs on the needle, they grab those wool fibers and push them through your base fabric so that they cling. See how that's holding? Now I can twist this into a shape like this. And I can felt this down as heavily or as lightly as I want. And I'm just popping it through, boop-a-da, 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 until it is secure enough that it's not going to go anywhere. So now you can see that's held down. If I lift it off, you can see on the back how the fibers have come through and they're being held by your wool felt, but the top surface is still nice and soft and almost fluffy, but it's not going to go anywhere. So I have one. I'm going to take another little piece, pull this out, and you can use this tool you can add scraps of thread from your sewing room. You can use pieces of yarn, as long as it's soft and flexible enough for the needle. This particular tool is designed to use with small and delicate felt projects, so not really heavy, chunky things, but it works well for anything like this. I find this to be sort of a delicate kind of a craft. You just want to work at it, just play, and it's actually quite satisfying to kind of chunk away at things like this. Twist that out into a bit of a pointed petal shape. Maybe we'll do a flower. Anything that's stray, you can either tuck under or twist off. Now, if you do enough of this, ultimately one of those needles will break. They're pretty delicate. So Clover, of course, also supplies replacement needles. So that's 2 on there. I was thinking of doing a flower, but that almost looks like bunny ears to me. Oh, we'll do a flower. Do a flower. So now, as I reposition, I can kind of feel how the wool is coming through to the back, like that. This would be a really fun project. I didn't have quite the right color of wool roving or wool felt when I was scrambling around today. To design a little gnome, we're all about gnomes here. And you could use the wool roving on a felt gnome and give him a nice fluffy beard. So this is, and when you get those edges like that, you maybe want to tease them in. But part of the fun with this technique is just to let it be itself. See what comes out. It's a very free form kind of a craft. So there's 3 little petals. Now, if you decide that this is kind of a project that you really get into, you like the look of the wool, and your brain starts sparking with all kinds of ideas that could be done with this wool felt and the wool roving, then you should know that I like working with the hand needle. I find I have a lot of control, and I generally work on fairly small projects. But if that's not to your liking, both Bernina and Brother sewing machines have a felting foot type attachment. So it's separate needles. Depending on the machine, it needs a little adjusting. So you can literally do the process with your sewing machine. You want to slow it down a little, and I'm sure there's plenty of videos on that. Maybe someday when we have a little more time for setup, we can actually demonstrate the felting foot. But if you really get into the process, there's the Bernina one, then that might be an investment you want to make, because after a while, when you do a lot of the felting, your hand and wrist are going to feel it for sure, for sure. So there is that option as well to work with a machine as opposed to working by hand. I like the handwork. I think everybody knows that by now. So pop that down. Oh, that petal has a nice little curl to it. So of course, the more you poke at this, the more firmly it's going to be attached. And you have to make that decision based on what you think you're going to be using the end product for. If it's just decorative, you can leave a lot of fluff sticking out. But if you're making a purse or a bag like I did, or you're maybe adding some to clothing, you're going to want to felt it down quite firmly so that you don't lose some of those fibers as you use the item. So the nice thing with this is you can see that one petal's a little thin. I could just pull off another little tuft of the wool. I could, if I wanted, add a second color onto this. Now, once you've finished your creation, you can embellish it further by adding beads. You can add a little bit of stitching, a little bit of embroidery on it, either by hand or by machine. But it's a very satisfying kind of a poking away at this sort of thing. There. That looks not too bad. I like the idea that you can build that up. You can take the felting tool carefully, because we don't want to pierce ourselves. Oh, wool roving. If I work without a fabric base, hope everybody can see this, yeah. So if I take this wool, fluff it out, bundle it together, I can set that down on there and actually just felt that to itself. This takes a lot longer because it's not going into a base, but the lovely nature of wool is that it will ultimately bond to itself, and you can build all kinds of delightful creatures out of it. I can already feel how that's getting tougher, stiffer in the center as the wool felts together. If I kept going on this, it's going to end up into probably a bead about that size. And you could, once it was done, make that into a bead. Make a series of them, string it on a necklace, hang it on the Christmas tree, put a few sparkles on it. So lots of fun. Once you get used to the idea, used to the technique, then you can go all out, create yourself a piece of wearable art, a bag, lots of fun. So that is our demo for today. Everybody take care, stay happy, stay calm, and enjoy what is left of our beautiful fall out there. And I will talk to you next week. Thanks for joining us, everyone.